Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's Sunday night. Sarah Young, a prolific writer and author, and one who has made her name by simply saying this is what Jesus might say to you. And from the Jesus Lives on Fear. I myself go before you, opening up the way. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Therefore you need not be afraid or discouraged. I realize, though, that feelings often fail to submit to logic. So don't be surprised when your emotions rebel against your will. David, who was both a mighty warrior and a gifted poet, expressed fearfulness, trembling, and even overwhelming horror in one of his psalms. Yet his trust in me was genuine and deep. His life and his writing demonstrate that fear does not trump trust. They can coexist. This is why David could proclaim, "When I am afraid, I will trust in you." Sunday night is oftentimes a night where we look at our situation, we look at the week before us, we look at some of the challenges before us, and we're a little bit afraid. I know I am. That happens to me, and that's why for many years I've just simply said, after a busy weekend, I take time on Sunday night to pray, to plan, and to seek God's face, courage, and His gifts and goals for me for the week. And so, on a regular basis, we've decided that as part of the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience, we'll try and put together a little program on Sunday night just for you. Welcome. It's Sunday night.
He careth for you. He careth for you. When the worries and cares of your life seem to block out the rays of His light, never forget, never lose sight, for He careth for you, for He careth for you.
And so I need to remember, indeed, on a Sunday night, going into Monday, He careth for you, and He also careth for me. That's what He does, and He does it well. I'm Stan Houston. The program is the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience. We come your way 3 to 4 to 5, usually now about 3 times a week, with a little internet on-demand radio program. Some people call that a personal on-demand broadcast, podcast, in which we try and take just a few minutes, maybe 12 to 20 minutes. That's what we want to kind of keep it to perhaps give you something to think about, perhaps stir your mind, stir your imagination, perhaps bring you some inspiration, and find something that will be practical and fruitful and make the week and day ahead of you in the marketplace a little better, a little more possible, a little more bright, and not so dim. This is an audition, by the way. I am very honest about it. One of the reasons someone said to me, well, why do you do these little programs? And I said, very, very, very much. I enjoy doing them. I enjoy radio. And actually, there are only 2 people in the audience that I'm trying to please. By the way, I may tell you a little bit about that this week, maybe even a little bit today. There's only 2 people we're trying to please. That's it, an audience of 1 or an audience of 2. But what I want to do is, in these programs, I am auditioning. Every time you hear me, you experience me, I am a business performance coach, and as part of the Christian Entrepreneur Network, I am walking into your life saying, can I help you? That's what I'm doing. Can I help you? I'm auditioning to see if I can help you. And if what I say, how I say it, how I come across, you might say, Stan, I think you can help me. I would like to see if you could help me. Yes, I need help with my business building. I need help with my leadership. I need help with my marketing. There are so many calamities and challenges going on in my life and business right now. I need help. Well, that's the question I want to ask you. How can I help you? And then hopefully I'll demonstrate a little wisdom and insight. DWI. I oftentimes say what you have to have in life and business today is you have to have a lot of DWI convictions. Demonstrated wisdom and insight. And hopefully a little bit of that comes across. I told you in advance that I was going to ask you a challenging question. And I did this just to get your mind stirring a little bit this week. What if Jesus told you, and you say you're a Jesus entrepreneur, you want to follow him, you want to see him more clearly, you want to follow him more nearly, you want to love him more dearly, you want to do what he wants you to do. What if he said to you, I want you to write a book this year? Yeah, by the first week in August 2019, I want you to have written a book. What if he said that to you? Just kind of like, supposedly he speaks to Sarah Young, says, hey, it's time. 83% of the people say they want to write a book. Everybody should write a book. And so this year, I want you to write your book. What would you do? Well, somebody wrote back and said, well, Jesus would never say that. How do you know that? How do you know what he would say? You're not him. Jesus never wrote a book. How do you know that? In fact, you don't know that. We don't have any record of it. However, there are people who actually, in their scholarship, think that the inspiration of the Psalms given to David was actually penned and bring into being by the second person of the Trinity, that actually the Psalms were the creation of Jesus. And that's what he gave. And then, how do you know that he hasn't written a book through people? His Spirit has inspired people. In fact, Jesus has written millions of books as he has inspired people to write the book. So, let's say Jesus said, I want you to write a book. How would you begin? Well, let me tell you what he probably wants you to do this for. I don't know exactly why he wants you to write your book, but just think about some of these ideas. Maybe he wants the best for you, and he knows that going through the labors of collecting your thoughts, putting them down, deciding what is important, he just knows that in your life and your business and your career, that would be really good for you. It will be one of the hardest things you've ever done. And it'll be something new for you. And perhaps he knows that would be good for you. Maybe he wants you to learn how to better express yourself. I often say, in today's world, you have to have not an MBA, because that will turn out to be mostly bad advice, because today is outdated. But he'd like you to have a master's degree, at least be a master of self-expression. Maybe he wants you just to tell your story. Your story is important. Your story is unique. Your story has a meaning for somebody. Now, let me say that again. Your story has a meaning for somebody. Maybe he wants you to share your wisdom. A lot of those things you've learned, boy, you paid the high, heavy price for them, didn't you? Yeah, that wisdom that you have, that insight, some of those truths you've learned, boy, you learned them the hard way. And maybe you need to share it. Maybe you sharing your wisdom will help kind of hack and short circuit it for somebody else, so they won't have to go through all the pain of the wisdom. Maybe they'll be smart enough to learn some of the things from you. So he wants you to share your wisdom. Maybe he wants you to become strong. I think Jesus wants us to be strong, particularly in the broken places. That wonderful line from Ernest Hemingway. All of us are broken, and we indeed are. But some people become strong in the broken places. Maybe he'd like to help you overcome some of your shyness. Maybe he wants you to shine rather than be shy. Maybe that's part of his plans for you, and putting together that book and then perhaps promoting it and putting it out there, that will help you shine rather than be shy. Maybe he understands that you'll have more influence because people who write are oftentimes thought of as experts and people who have a little more wisdom and insight as opposed to people who just talk. The old line from one of my mentors, he said, "Stan, in the world today, talkers are usually just thought of as hawkers, and if you're a writer or an author, they'll think of you more as an expert." And that's what encouraged me to write my first book, and I wish I would have done it much sooner. In fact, my advice and counsel to young men and women right now is write your first book before you're 35, and earlier if you can. By the way, Donald Trump made his name with a book called The Art of the Deal. It's quite a book. Particularly if you want to understand Donald Trump, you need to understand the book. And I'm surprised how many people in the news and in the world today say they know everything about him, but they never read his book. And by the way, he's written 4 or 5 books. I've read most of them. They're quite good, by the way. And I give him credit. He obviously didn't write it. His name is on it. But he had other people write it with him. And yet, he didn't hog all the fame. Unlike so many celebrities, the person who ghostwrites the book and puts it all together and does it, they just disappear. I know that for sure because my daughter is a world-class writer, and she's written 2 or 3 books, but she's written a lot more than 2 or 3 books. It's just that the famous people she wrote the books for, they never said anything about it. They just took it and passed it off as their own. And in a respect, that may be okay. Because there are people who can take your words, your stories, and the things you know, and they can craft them, and they can wordsmith them, and they can put them down. You see, maybe the way you start to write your book is you just sit down and you teach a class. That's what Dale Carnegie did with How to Win Friends and Influence People. Turned out to be a fairly successful book. He was just teaching a class at a YMCA in New York City. Maybe you begin there. Or perhaps you just simply say, I'm going to give a talk. I'm going to give a speech. I'm just going to sit down and begin to speak from my heart. And that's how you start. By the way, you never start writing a book by grabbing a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen and or sitting by a computer. Some people can do that, but probably not you. Just some thoughts about beginning. Let me ask you this question. What if I said, and this is what I did today in church, with a gentleman I've really come to admire who's had a very successful career, and I'm trying to bring him into helping you and I at the Christian Entrepreneur Network. I just sat down and said, Bob, you've had a successful career, and you've done well. What would you say? What are 7 things today? You know, you're in your 70s now. You've been good at what you do, and you're a good man. What would be 7 things that you believe that a young entrepreneur should know, do, become, and possibly believe in order to be successful? And he looked at me and said, wow. He said, just 7. I said, yeah, just start. What should a young entrepreneur know? What do you need to know? What are some of the things you need to do? What do you have to become? Is there anything you need to believe? And I could just see his eyes light up. He said, yeah, Give me some time. I'll just think about that. And I said, right. Don't sit down now. Just let this sit on your head and sink into your heart. And then from time to time, pick up a pen or pencil, or better than that, take your iPhone or your smartphone and just start talking. Just start recording. Just start putting it out there. Get the words, out of your mind and out of your mouth. Get your words just out of your mind and out of your mouth, and see what happens. That's how you start. And please keep in mind that it may be nothing more than this. Jesus wants you to share your legacy with your children. By the way, for a number of years, I did a 1-minute radio program, and I did about 1,500 of them. I don't know if anybody heard them or if anybody listened to them. That wasn't the point. All I know is that there is a box that has all 1,500 of those radio programs there. And someday, my daughter may go through them. She's promised me she would, and she'll perhaps find out what I believe was true and important and how much I loved her. I am writing the book for my children. I'm doing the broadcast for my children. Someone once said, but Stan, nobody will read my book. And I said, you're wrong. You will. That's important. God will. Jesus will. He will read your book. And maybe one other person will read your book. It's said that the reason David Bowie was such an incredible artist, and he was, whether you like him or not, he reinvented himself all the time. Very successful in his career. And it's said that the reason he was successful, he made a point of saying, is it's not for my audience. It's for me to be authentic and be real and keep bringing myself to the story. And I know that if I'm real and authentic and bring myself and my ideas to the story, my song to the story, somebody can use it. They say that there are thousands of songs that Prince never recorded. They're just sitting in the studio somewhere. Please keep in mind, the reason Jesus may want you to read your book is to have a story and a legacy for your children. Something to think about this week as you meet the marketplace on Monday. What would you do if Jesus would to you, hey, this year I want you to write a book? Well, as I said, I'm auditioning. By the way, I can help you do that. My team of people at the Christian Entrepreneur Network, we know how to help you do that, and we can make it happen for you. And you will need help. I can help you. There are a lot of things that we can do. You see, we are auditioning to help you build a wonderful life, a fully alive life. That's what we want. That you'll build a great business and you'll expand your brand, and that people will be influenced for good and godly and great reasons because of you and your story and perhaps your book. Remember, your book is your business card. All the best and blessings, just under 20 minutes. I hope this Sunday night will get you praying, get you planning, and get you writing. All the best and blessings as you hit Monday. May it go well for you, and bye for now.